Thank you for the warm welcome. Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm in Ground Zero. I'm in Washington, D.C. So thank you for the invitation. Thank you to PIDS. Thank you to Banco Central. As you mentioned, I've been many times in the region. I have experience working in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN, and all the alphabet soup of different ASEAN divisions and organizations. So I'm keen to also be supportive of the Philippine chairmanship for next year. And today I would like to share about some of ITIF work and or view on the trade war and America deindustrialization that can be helpful for the Philippines. So a bit of context. First of all, I'm going to present about my organization is ITIF, Information Technology and Innovation Foundation. We are a global think tank based in the United States. We're independent, mostly focused on technology policy and innovation. So our view from the trade war is based on basically strategic industries and innovation. And our research focus on all the extent of technology policy, from life sciences, IT and data, regulation, antitrust, broadbands, and many others that are not here listed. But I will invite everyone to check our website, itif.org. And today's presentation, as I mentioned before, first of all, giving to the Philippine audience a bit of context about why the Trump administration is doing this. What is the underlying rationale? Despite if the action itself are correct or not, there is some symptoms that were being accumulated through decades, and that is particularly through the deindustrialization and the offshoring of the manufacturing. Then, of course, I'm going to talk about the most beautiful word in the alphabet, tariff. And then some of our views of what the Philippines should do on the negotiations. And then share some final reflection based on our work here in our think tank. So first, I think it's important to understand that despite what I'm going to mention about the symptoms of what led America's isolationism and this wave of deglobalization pushed by mainly the United States, but also was fed by other trade irritants and trade imbalances. My view is that the trade war ultimately will harm the American economy. The United States will be a smaller economy than, and the global economy will be smaller than without this trade war. So I want to start by that not very optimistic landscape, but just to give a context of a narrative of dissatisfaction over the loss of U.S. manufacturing output and job that also it's compounded by geopolitical tensions. So this is basically what our research has been focused on lately. We developed the Hamilton Index. Hamilton, besides being a great singer in a musical in Broadway, is one of the founding fathers of the United States, and also he was envisioning the country as a big superpower, economic superpower. So we developed this index basically to compare how much the top 40 countries, the Philippines included in this analysis, the share of global output in advanced industries. I will describe later which are the advanced industries that we're been focusing on. And we discovered first that China's rises is even more pronounced when you just analyze advanced industries. And then you can also see clearly that the United States had been deindustrialized, and I think this figure represents very well the core of the problem. On the one hand, we see here in blue the rise of China. The rest of the world, which is basically the other economies listed, it's practically flat. Some other countries, such as Italy and Germany, has been steady or in slow decline. But we can see also that the United States basically never recover after the peak in the 90s and early 2000s, and then after the Great Recession, basically the share of the United States in advanced industry. This is only advanced industries globally. Basically never recover, and this portrays very well the sorry the deindustrialization of the American economy. We divided this and also by different sectors, and we can see also that even that basically the few flat line that we can see in the last decade is basically sustained by IT, but without the IT sector, basically the global share of the nine remaining industries will have been much lower. And basically IT, this is basically big tech and all of the great innovation that we have seen in the last decade help to offset the decline in other industries. Here are the 10 industries, and we developed another index within the Hamilton Index, which is called LQ, the location quotient, which shows how concentrated a country in advanced industry output is relative to the global average. In other words, if it is above 1, that means that the country is overperforming in a specific sector or in average. And if it's below 1, it is because it's underperforming compared to the average of the rest of the world. And we can see here basically what many people have this basically the view that the US champions are big tech industries, pharmaceuticals, and other transportation is basically aerospace. And then you have some semiconductor industry and computer and electronics that are in the margins of 1. But then basically those are the big champions of the American economy. And in the rest of the industry, you don't see that as it was before 20 decades ago, even 10 decades ago. The United States have very few sectors, very few companies that are actually top in the world competitive vis-a-vis other ones, mainly Chinese companies. Even though in market share, of course, the United States companies are dominant in the global industry. Here is the global landscape. There are more countries in this index, but I had to cut this for space. But you can see that the Philippines is a bit below 1. This is basically averaging all the 10 sectors and weighting by the size of the economy. So basically the question is the Philippines pushing above its weight or not? It's a bit on in the average, but we can see also that the United States is below basically what it can produce given its size, and also we can see that the main are small countries plus Korea and Japan, the ones that are overperforming here in our index. So basically, long story short, America, the industrialization is more pronounced on advanced industries, on complex and knowledge-intensive industries, and we can see that the United States have only few sectors that are truly champion vis-a-vis other in the world. The second factor, of course, is the country that it's in the north of the Philippines, that we believe that its authoritarian mercantilism involves IP theft, forced technology transfer, subsidized overproduction. On top of that basically it's started the decline of globalization, because China never fully embraced the WTO framework. So I'm not going to start in the conversation of who started or not the trade war, but we can see that China's mercantilism and its commitment to WTO framework, it's long way before America isolationism. So just to list a few of China's uncommitments on WTO framework, high subsidies, IP theft, even companies policies on procurement, but also unfair policies for companies that are trying to invest in China. They have invisible and non-tariff barriers that it's very hard for companies investing in China to get market access in China. The only way of companies to nowadays to succeed investing in China is if they are not gonna sell in China. If they are going to invest in China because they want to export the products and not compete in China, it's very easy, or at least easier, but it's a market that is sustainably and gradually increasing how close it is. And we have seen also some statement even that their goal basically is self-sufficiency. This is also one of the symptoms of why America is closing it down, closing its economy, and basically the core of America's isolationism. There are other factors that I will discuss later, which are the imbalances, and also that touches the Philippines. But I will say the main two ones is the industrialization and China's mercantilism and commitment to the WTO framework. I'm saying this just to give a context, of course, and just to so the negotiator and also policymaker in the Philippines can understand a bit these nuances and views that are from the United States. So now I want to talk about tariff. I'm not going to repeat what is in the news because basically I prepared this on Friday, and a lot of things have changed since Friday. So basically just to state some stylish facts that what do we know so far from our view, particular here in the United States, is that on the one hand, despite what I just mentioned, China is not the top priority for the United States government, at least in this administration. As the moderator announced, there are some ongoing negotiations with the European Union that also are strong and imposing tariff to 50% or so, and also they are pushing other countries to basically create deals, but without taking into account necessarily that the main geopolitical adversary of the United States is China, as it was shared during the campaign. Nowadays, we don't see that that's the top priority of the negotiations. Second is that contradictions are part of a feature. So I will discourage the Philippines policymakers there to try to overanalyze this. So, for example, tariffs are announced that they are gonna increase revenue, but on the other hand, tariffs are supposed to onshore production. But if they're onshore production, there's gonna be less import, hence less revenues, and so on and so forth. So there is a bunch of this type of contradictions. I think that's a feature, and I will convey, not overthink about what that really means, because I don't think that as a negotiation tactic is basically it's just what it is so far, and this is what we know. Third, I think the UK-US announcement is not an agreement. Is because if it was an agreement, it should have been negotiated through Congress and so on. This is an announcement of a deal that they impose a few quotas here and there, but mainly is that the blanket 10% tariff will stay. That was part of the statement of the White House when they announced this agreement. And this is something that has been reiterated after in announcement from authorities. So I think it's very likely that we will see some sort of tariff. And unfortunately, in my point of view, the realistic scenario is that there's going to be a blanket tariff globally, and it's going to be likely a 10%. And the big precedent of this is that one of if not one, the main key ally of the United States, which is the UK, it is being targeted 10%, even that there is all of the narrative of trade imbalances and so on. Most of them don't apply necessarily to the United Kingdom. As I mentioned before, there is no agreement. Agreement require law, and there has not been legal changes, and there is no legislative agenda on trade. So All of this also creates the uncertainty of what will happen when the administration change, even if this is in the same political color, because still is going to be a different leader. So far has been through executive orders, which is similar to decrees or other administrative tools that different countries have that doesn't go through law, so everything basically can change when well, even before, but there is more uncertainty what will happen with all of these policies, because they are not being discussed through Congress, they are not by law, so it can be easily changed with the stroke of a pen. And also it will be, even if as I mentioned before, even if it's the same political color, a new administration from other leaders might likely change the amount of tariffs, of the style of negotiation, and so on. So this is increased the uncertainty, and I will add on this that uncertainty is also a feature. It's not it might be a negotiation tactic or not, but it's also something that is going to stay until things are going to be legislated, and there is no legislative agenda on trade. So uncertainty is gonna stay for a while, unfortunately. So this is our view on even if the main goal, which is not necessarily the main goal, is to reindustrialize America, is one of the goals stated by the administration, but also other goals are related to fentanyl. Other goals are related, as I mentioned before, with revenue for the government and so on. But even if the goal is reindustrialize America, part of what we see is that basically there is a good assessment that is a good objective. There are some trade imbalances and trade deficit that needs to be addressed. There is a 1.2 trillion in deficit on annual deficit on trades on goods. That those are things that need to be addressed because are fairly unsustainable in the long run. China as an adversary. This is a legacy from the first Trump administration that also was continued through the Biden administration, but the view that China is an adversary is here to stay, and assessing that the WTO framework is insufficient to address all of the trade imbalances and basically the authoritarian mercantilism that China has put into effect. The WTO is clearly insufficient to address all of that. But however, we also see that there is no clear view on focusing in strategic advanced industries. When the Trump administration talks about manufacturing, it is unclear what type of manufacturing are they talking about. We at ITIF always said that potato chips are not the same as computer chips. Although to create potato chips, you need some manufacturing, but it's clearly different in terms of spillovers, in terms of knowledge intensity, R&D, etc. What you need to create a potato chip vis-a-vis a computer chip. But apparently, the Trump administration is seeing all of this as equal. Of course, and in the second point here, in terms of alienating allies and treating allies and adversaries in the same way, I'm keen to also have the perspective from the Philippines in this, because from Washington there is quite a surprise on how the Trump administration is basically treating all countries as equal, but we know that we have friends, we have allies that we need to treat differently, and the ultimate goals with our allies should be different. So that's something that has surprised the Washington D.C. community, and of course there is tariff, as the Banco Central might know better than I. Tariff as a tool, not an objective itself, and there are some shifting rationales, as I mentioned before: fentanyl, revenue, industrialization. There are some contradicting signs of what is the top priority for the administration. We made a small calculation about basically what will happen if other countries retaliate at the same rate that the Trump administration is announcing the tariff. This was with the first set of announcements. Long story short, my point here is that the United States is an export indeed of advanced manufacturing, and those advanced manufacturings are products are going to be harmed. We calculate that the potential retaliation is at least $56 million. This is not even taking into account Canada and Mexico, so that number is higher. This is only for information technology agreement products. This represents around at least 26% of all exports on this area, and this is only a subsector. So a part of what is happening now is that potential retaliation is not taken into account, and we will see after the 90 days pause how other countries are going to react to the United States tariff, because this is a dynamic, this is a back and forth. It's not that the United States imposed tariffs and nothing happened after. So yeah, exports are going to be harmed. And as I mentioned before, the United States champions are global companies, and they are quite big. That this is a recent analysis that we did with all of these companies are part of the top 100 on market capitalization, are all public listed companies. So we basically analyze what is the share of revenues outside the United States. So on the one hand, you can see what is the potential that eventually could be onshore to the United States. But on the other hand, this also revealing that advanced companies in strategic sector needs the global economy. It's not enough the United States as a market on its own for technology companies, aerospace and defense, and so on. Perhaps for potato chip type of companies, the United States it's an enough market for their manufacturing, but for advanced manufacturing, you need the rest of the world to compete, and this is also reflected on the share of the revenues of the companies. So it is. I'm not gonna go into detail about the back and forth of the negotiation, but because everything is changing. But that's basically an overarching view of what will be the core issues that will harm the American economy, and particularly in advanced manufacturing for the United States. Now, I want to pivot to what our view that what the Philippines should do. Of course, this is the new Oval Office, all golden and big and beautiful. So first is and this is mostly a recommendation, but also is something that we know that's going to happen because we have seen declarations and announcements. For example, what happened with the European Union last week is part of that, is that the United States government and the Trump administration and Trump himself probably want to start negotiations. So probably those countries that have not take the phone, or well, I guess nobody calls by phone nowadays, but at least communicate with the United States government. Those countries that have not done that, they're going to receive the reciprocal tariff announced on the so-called Liberation Day. That's, I think, I'm fairly confident on that. That's a highly likely scenario. So basically, to the Philippines, to other ASEAN member states, if they want to reduce the eventual reciprocal tariff, some negotiation needs to start. And we are, I think, at day 47 out of 90, so there is a bit of time left to do that. Second, and this is not surprising for this administration in particular, symbols and announcements are as important as what is written in the negotiation. We have seen this in many announcements of Trump himself, of the administration. also how the announcement was with the UK trade deal was announced. I will underscore that they announced that deal in Victory Day, which is the day that the United States and the Allies defeated the Nazis in the World War II. So it's very symbolic, even in those type of things. So I will encourage also in take special attention to how announcement and symbols are shared. And I think the Philippines have a lot of as an ally country have a lot of to share on that regard. Um, and as I mentioned before, tariff can be reduced through negotiations. Yet I don't see that will be eliminated in total. And trade policy is part of the geopolitical chessboard, so that means circumvention of Chinese production, Chinese presence in the supply chain of key exports to the United States will be taken into account, and so on and so forth. I know that that's of course absolutely relevant for the Philippines, but also I think is more pronounced for other ASEAN member states too, namely Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia. I think that's very likely. The United States, I think they understand the importance of ASEAN centrality, and there is no pressure for countries to basically quote unquote pick a lane. But I think it's also important that the ultimate products and the supply chain that is associated to that will arrive to the United States doesn't have circumvention from Chinese production, mainly because what I mentioned before, this is production that is subsidized. There are IP theft, forced technology transfer, underlying that, and so on and so forth. So that's something that is going to be taken into account. And as we like to create indexes, so we created the Trump Risk Index. Basically, we took two objective indicators: one, military spending, and second, trade balance on goods and services. And then we also created two qualitative two indicators based on qualitative data. One is toughness on China. This is perceptions, laws, declarations, etc. And then anti-US policies, which is basically treating US companies different than other companies because they have larger revenues, because they have frontier technology, and so on and so forth. So we created this for all US allies. These are the allies in the Indo-Pacific, and we can see and that well, basically this is normalized. So if you are surprised that the trade balance here is positive, it's because it's less negative than compared to the average of all the weighted countries. But we can see here, and this shed a light on basically what the Philippines might start showing, that compared to other US allies, the Philippines have a relative low military spending, but have a positive trade balance, toughness on China, and a positive reception to US investment. So I think this also shed a light in basically what the Philippines might do for symbolism negotiation, but also for tangible initiatives. So this is redundant with what I just said, but I live here, so in case you want more details. So basically, military spending offsets all of the other components, and the Philippines will be much better positioned if according to this index, if they increase military spending, at least it will be in a better position compared to other countries, not only in the Indo-Pacific, but also the other US allies. And we also developed the trade imbalance index. Basically, these are take into account 11 dimensions as are listed here. And we consider the largest economies in the world. These are just Indo-Pacific countries, but if you want to see the whole world, we have developed that. And basically, this is negative or positive from the point of view of Washington according to each dimension. And we see here that trade balance for China and other even non-tariff barriers, etc., are negative for the U.S. and so on and so forth. But then if we can see how the Philippines is positioned in relative terms, again, this is compared to the global average, is that it has a positive, is in a more positive position, with the exception of the ranking of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce International IP Index, mainly in existing gaps in IP protection in life science and content, and barriers for licensing and technology transfer. So basically, these are different things. Again, this will improve the position to the Philippines to negotiate if they are addressed, and the Philippines will be truly and will be accurately stating that they are in a better position than at least other countries, not only in the Indo-Pacific but also in the world, vis-a-vis to the United States. And finally, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with this report nowadays, is basically the USTR, the United States Trade Representative Office, develops the National Trade Estimate Report. The National Trade Estimate Report, which is basically state the main concerns from the United States to third countries that are in terms of trade barriers, that could be tariff, and on the other dimension that I discussed before in the imbalances. I encourage everyone to review the Philippines because they are concerned about most favored nation status, non-trade barriers, and so on and so forth, and other concerns in terms of weed protection, etc., etc., etc. This is a report that is being created from decades ago. It's not political. So don't consider this as something from the view of the trade administration. This is something that has been created from 1974, as far as I know. So basically, these are the concerns of the United States as in general, vis-a-vis other countries, including, of course, the Philippines. So just to wrap up quickly, what the Philippines also should do while America is closing its economy on the one hand, I encourage consider CPTPP and the Digital Economy Partnership Agreement, and I'll be quick on this. Other relevant ITIF work is our positive view on globalization. We believe in free trade with allies, pragmatic trade with others, and strategic trade with our adversaries. Thank you. This is my contact information. Thank you for this invitation. Sorry for the time, but I will be keen to see how the Philippines is hosting ASEAN next year. So thank you, everyone.